This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports, who now joins us on the program. Tom, good morning. Appreciate you jumping in as always, man. I want to start with the recent development of the suspensions of Miles Slusher and Anthony Brown. Kind of your thoughts on Coach Pittman announcing that yesterday.
Well, I mean, I think it's probably the right thing to do, even though it's, kind of outwardly not a, an egregious. Well, I think that the lesson is you don't put your hands on the policeman, and it just seemed like they were being kind of obstinate, or Anthony Brown was being obstinate, staying in the road. So, you got to learn, and as Sam Pittman said yesterday, part of their job is teaching. And so if they ask you to get out of the roadway and there's a group of people, and you just get on out of the roadway, you could have avoided the whole thing. So hopefully lesson learned.
Tom, that was one of the big things that came out yesterday. Also, I know Coach got asked several times about the health of KJ Jefferson. What do you think is going on with him in regards to what he's dealing with as an injury-wise?
Yeah, there was a lot of psychological components, I think, to yesterday's talk. I think some of the reporters are trying to get inside what the locker room is like. Where's the confidence level? Why wasn't there an emotion? And it led to Sam Pittman talking about how when your leaders are injured, your most outspoken guys, that maybe, they understand they're not playing to their full capability, and maybe they've missed some tackles if you're Bumper Pool, or maybe you've missed some reads if you're KJ Jefferson, or haven't done something physically that your teammates have seen you do before. Then maybe they're more reluctant to speak up in the locker room because they know that their teammates have seen these plays they once made. And so Sam Pittman was talking like, we have to encourage our leaders to go ahead and speak up and go ahead, call somebody out for a missed assignment or whatever, because you're the leaders. And even if you're injured, your teammates understand what you've done in the past. And so there's a little bit of a psychological component to everything that's going on. I mean, he says it's a bruised clavicle. So when you put your shoulder in motion and your clavicle is bruised, it's painful. Here's the thing about KJ. We all know he's a fighter. We all know he's, every play, there's some big decision, on the read, on the option. Do I give? Do I keep? And do I pass? And, Liberty made things tough. They were sending a guy high at KJ. So that discouraged him keeping the ball. And if the few times he did, they got him in the backfield some of those times. They were also doing twists on the inside of that made some of the reads to give to Rocket or other backs. They were stuffed at the line too. So Liberty really, really schemed them up, and they were fired up for this game. I mean, it's no different than what we thought going in, that Hugh Freeze is going to put a lot of marbles, and they did. And so KJ, Sam Pittman said that he felt better on Sunday, and he expects him to have a better practice week. And so I think we saw the result of a light practice week in some of his, the physical act of the throws. The 4th and 5 comes to mind when they had a nice little scheme. Keytron was coming across the middle at first down distance, and if he puts the ball on him, they convert. And they didn't because he threw behind him. And there was a few others like that. But KJ did come on in the game, and he was more on target, and his receivers helped him big time. Jaden Hazelwood's 4th down catch was huge. Matt Landers fighting for the extra yardage when he got spun around. He was short of the chain, spun around, got the first down. So his receivers, showed up for him. And I've given you a long, long answer to say that I think a healthier KJ Jefferson will give them a chance against LSU. But, y'all, when you boil it down, there's 2 plays on this season. KJ trying to jump from the 3 against A&M that turned that game. And then, Trey Knox had a ball in his hands in the end zone. And instead of it being a touchdown in a 14-7 game, it bounces over and their DB picks it. And then Liberty pulls off their longest, most effective drive of the game, 80 yards, and goes ahead 21-0. Now, those 2 plays are huge. Arkansas should be 7-2, but they should have to, they have to fight through psychologically everything that's happened to them and put a good product on the field Saturday.
All right, so you've gotten these questions, I'm sure. We've gotten a ton of them. If KJ wasn't 100%, why didn't Malik play? I've got a take. I want to hear yours first.
Well, my take during the game was, wow, KJ appears to be off. They first 3-4 drives, they had some negative yardage rush plays. His accuracy was a little off, and I thought, well, maybe you give Malik a series, okay? But the coaches have to look at it as what will this mean to KJ? Have we lost confidence in him? And so if they had done that, you got to tell KJ, look, we know your clavicle's hurting. We know it hurts you to throw. We're just going to throw curveball here, see if Malik can get to the edge, see if there can be a spark. Now, if it's very successful, what do? Well, you say, KJ, when you're healed up and ready, you're our guy. That never changes. But I think what they were hearing from KJ was, I feel okay. And Kendall Briles is saying, he's our guy. And so it's a tough call. You have to know the inner workings of your locker room, what it means to the players, what it means to KJ, what it means to Malik, if you had given him a series. From the outside looking in, I thought give him a series in the second quarter when they were struggling. Yeah. If it's successful, stick with him for a while. If it's not successful, go back to KJ. But I don't know. What's your take, Tommy?
Well, Hazelwood said after the game that Malik took all the snaps in practice last week, right? So we know what practice looked like last week. My take is Kendall Briles saw all of those snaps. He watched all of that film. He saw Malik Hornsby all week long during practice and still didn't have the confidence to put him in the game. So even when things weren't going right, things were out of sync, Arkansas wasn't prepared. And I think one of the reasons they weren't prepared is they could not simulate the speed of the Liberty defense during practice with their scout team. Even with all of that, you added up, and the conclusion was, yeah, KJ may be 75 or 80%, but we believe more in him based on what we saw in practice than what we would get out of Malik. And that's what I think. They had every reason in the world to put Malik in, and based on what their own eyes told them through a week's practice, they didn't do it.
Well, I mean, that's a legit take. And what Liberty was doing would have made Hornsby's reads, he's not as seasoned at the reads that KJ is. And some of the stuff they were doing made KJ have, his eyes were telling him this, and he made the decision, and it didn't work. So it would have been just as tough a reads for Malik Hornsby. So, hey, Liberty just put a good scheme on him. It was a confluence of events. Your number one quarterback's not 100%. You give up some pass plays in the first half. And who's to say if Arkansas had made it a tough game, would Liberty have not gone back to the air and still had success? We don't know that. But they did come after Jonathan Bennett more in the second half. But, Malik Hornsby definitely needs some more seasoning. We saw, the upside of him against Mississippi State. He got to the edge. They couldn't tackle him. He made some pass plays. But also, when they had to pass, they set back a few times, and they picked him a couple times. And honestly, Emmanuel Forbes' interception was one of the most athletic you'll see all year. He had a guy, and if he puts another, couple of feet on the ball, or even 6 or 8 inches, that's a touchdown for Arkansas. So I don't know. I think if you're Arkansas and you're looking at post KJ, that a little bit more seasoning for Malik Hornsby, and you have a competitive quarterback. But I think on Saturday, you're right. They made the decision that based on what we know, KJ at this percent capacity, 75, 80, whatever it might have been, he's our guy. And I think that
they trusted him more. They trusted him more, Tom.
They did. And psychologically, it's like, what does this mean to the team? What does it mean to KJ? We think he's going to get it together, and he did. It just happened to be a little too late. And look, if he scores the 2-point conversion and they go into overtime, they win the game, we still have this conversation, right? But it's just they have a win, and so it's more magnified when you don't have the win.
Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports with us every Tuesday and Thursday on the Morning Rush. So, Tom, if they had issues against Liberty, how are they going to handle Ojulari, Perkins, and the rest of this LSU pass rush this weekend?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it does mean you have to be a lot more efficient, and that means KJ has to have more work in practice this week to understand what his reads are, what those schemes are. You have to have good film study. And now LSU's, base defense or their base scheme is not the twisting and all that Liberty did, according to Sam Pittman. But they do have it. They've done it this year, and you can look back to last year and say, "Wow, man, we played man behind a bunch of pressure and blitzing, and really put Arkansas behind the 8 ball. And if not for KJ doing some heroic things, getting out of tackles, maybe they win that game." So I think LSU is going to be very confident that they can slow or stem Arkansas's run game and see if Arkansas can beat them through the pass. So that's why it was a little surprising to me to see what the line was to open, 2.5 points. But those guys always know something, so we'll see.
What kind of dynamic is it for Greg Brooks and Joe Fouché going against their former team, and Dwight McGlothern and Landon Jackson going against their former team this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's a huge deal. Brooks and Fouché obviously being a little bit more veteran than the two, McGlothern and Jackson that Arkansas has. But I think for Fouché and Jackson, as Sam Pittman pointed out, they played their hearts out for Arkansas. They're going to want to show the fans, hey, we're good players and we're getting it done down here at LSU. Both of them have made huge plays this year. I think Brooks taking a ball away, much like Quincy McAdoo last week, just took it away from an Auburn receiver, was a huge play in that game. Because if they don't have it, Auburn could go down and win the game, or at least take the lead late in the game. And so Brooks has made plays. Fouché has certainly made plays since he came back from missing the first 4, I believe. And I don't doubt that they're going to be big components in this game on Saturday. And then, of course, McGlothern, he's had a good year. I mean, he gave up his first touchdown of the season last week. He got his back to the play a little bit of a broken play, extra time. And, if he maybe sticks a hand out, he can break that one up. But anyway, I think he'll be wanting to show for his teammates he still got it and all that stuff. And, Landon Jackson, he's been a good component, man. They've been a little bit of a since the sack binge to start the season, they haven't had as many. But I think Landon Jackson blocking the field goal at Auburn was big. And, I think he's going to grow into a pretty doggone good defensive end here.
Well, after a disappointing football weekend, thank the Lord the basketball team won last night. 76-58 over North Dakota State, playing without Nick Smith. Tom, what's wrong with his knee? When will he be back? And what were your takeaways from the season opener?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's wrong with Nick's knee. I mean, it's maintenance stuff or whatever, precautionary. So hopefully here in a week or two or whenever it might be, he can get back on the court. There's a lot of value in what he brings, and you want to make sure he's right. I got to say, shout out to Ricky Council. That reverse stuff last night it looked easy, but it's going to be one of the best dunks of the year because he had a defender on him, and he did it like in full speed. It was very fluid and smooth, but man, that was a beautiful reverse dunk.
Special. Tom.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.